Hey everyone, welcome to Miller's Military Moments, and I am your host, Master Sergeant Jason Miller. Hope everybody's doing well out there, and welcome to episode 18, Shenanigans, where I'm going to talk about some of the silly, funny, crazy, and sometimes mean things that we do to each other, to pick on each other, to pass the time, for whatever reason it happens. But yeah, we do a lot of that stuff to each other. We pick on each other quite a bit. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get into some of those shenanigans, a couple things. If you have noticed, my show music is a little bit different and new the past few episodes. And I wanted to give a special shout out to the producer, creator, and editor of that music. And that's Steve McCormick. He's an incredible artist, really, and whether it be painting, drawing, photography, music, writing music, and producing the music, playing the music. I mean, he's very, very talented, and he's also a really good family man, father, husband, and a wonderful friend to many people. And I appreciate him taking the time to share one of his original songs that he has written and published. And there's going to be a feature on my website, millersmilitarymoments.com, where you can go and it'll have links to his music on YouTube, so you can check that out too. The original songs that he edited and created a little bit different versions for my show. So hopefully you've liked the new music, and also, let's give Steve McCormick a big round of applause and thank you for not only taking the time but allowing us to use some of his music. So thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, man. And so moving on to, I want to talk about ads and advertising a little bit. So I honestly don't know if you're seeing ads on the YouTube videos. I think you may be, but certainly it is not my ads. Could be YouTube, and I may say, this ad supports YouTube and not me. So I don't have any ads. I'd prefer not to have any ads either. But what I did do is I did create it's called Buy Me a Coffee. And it's a way for people to, support me financially if you like the show, or you want to, just continue to support me doing the show and future shows. Because there are some ideas and plans that we're working on for a different podcast and different shows. So there's a link on there, and there's going to be more to come. There's a link on my website again, so millersmilitarymoments.com. You can go on there, and really what that money initially will go for is some technology upgrades, whether it be my camera, microphone, and some things to kind of set up a studio that might be a little bit better than where I'm at right now, which is in the corner of my bedroom. But that's okay. So, but anyway, don't feel pressured to do it. I'd like to set it up like that to where if you would like to, you can, and because I'd prefer not to have ads. What I'd also prefer to do is I'd love to give shout outs to veteran-owned businesses and even other small businesses that are not necessarily even owned by veterans, but give them shout outs on the show that, if they support us in various ways, doesn't even have to be financially, but like to give some recognition to them and let, our viewers and listeners know about those opportunities out there, because there's so many small businesses that do amazing things out there. But one of the challenges is marketing and getting their name out there, and getting enough business to stay afloat for longer time. So I'd really long term prefer to stay away from ads as a way to generate revenue. So I like the concept of allowing the viewers, listeners, and supporters to choose to do so. And there's going to be some options to gain some extra things through some of those supporting options through Buy Me a Coffee as well. But on my website, if you're on computer, it's on the right side at the top. It says Buy Me a Coffee. And if you're on mobile, scroll down a little bit, past the introduction, and then it says, support me, buy me a coffee. And hey, if you haven't gone to my website lately, it's updated and changed a little bit. It's more mobile friendly, so there's not distracting things in your way, and you can read it a lot better. and use it. I asked for feedback last week and got a ton of great feedback from people, and so I went in and made some changes, and hopefully it's a little bit better, a little bit more user-friendly, mobile user-friendly for sure, and gets the message and the point across out there. And don't forget about the show notes. So the show notes also on the website, you can get a brief summary of the show, but also there's pictures in there. There's links to certain things that are associated with that particular show. So yeah, so check that out. And apparently everybody has really loved the last episode with Grant Belvin, a former Marine. It's definitely my top viewed web video on YouTube, and which is really awesome. That was great. It was a lot of fun having him on, and I'm looking forward to bringing him back, and we're going to continue his story, and probably for a couple more episodes. And also looking forward, not just with him, I'm going to bring on some other teammates of mine soon, and we're going to share some of our stories with you all as well. So that'll be pretty fun and exciting coming up. So on a talking about shenanigans, talking about picking on people, and not so much picking on people, but doing things for fun, and sometimes doing things crazy that maybe we shouldn't be doing, and then of course sometimes we get in trouble for them. And so I want to talk about somebody in particular first, and this person, Seth Brown, who is a good friend of mine and had been a teammate of mine for years. Okay, we actually met in 2002 at Fort Hood, and I've known him this whole time, and we've actually served together at various places, which has been rather interesting. Our careers almost kind of mirror each other in a lot of ways. So, but I'm pretty confident, I don't know that he's listening to this one. He has listened to a few, but he just got home from another overseas deployment. So welcome home, Seth Brown. I know your family is really excited to have you home, and as is are your friends and everyone else. So welcome home, and glad you're home, and hopefully not too many overseas deployments before you get an opportunity to retire soon. So, but when we talk about shenanigans, we talk about Seth Brown. Seems to be in the middle of a lot of these shenanigans that go on. Lighthearted, funny guy that really entertains everybody, it seems like, all the time. And recently, another teammate of ours, he was a pilot and our safety officer in the unit Seth and I both served in at Fort Hood. There was a picture that Seth shared and of him, and the pilot said, if the Army had a spirit animal, Seth Brown would be it. And that's so true. Like, he definitely would be the spirit animal of the Army. Like, he's just, again, he's funny, he's lighthearted, fun to be around, almost takes on any challenge that anybody brings his way, whether it be a food challenge. You won't eat that. You won't drink that. I'll give you $5 if you eat all that. I mean, those types of things. So welcome home, Seth Brown, and thanks for always entertaining us and everyone else around us and helping us have a good time while we may not be in such great situations at the time. So I'm not going to get into too many of his stories, because I'm actually, not only am I asking him live, well, it's not live, but on this video and podcast, to appear on the show and tell some of his own stories to you all. But I'm going to send him a direct message here shortly and ask him to come on the show and share some of his stories with you. So, so welcome home, Seth Brown, and thanks for always bringing us some good laughs. And I've got so many pictures of him, and actually videos of him, and hopefully, I'll get some of them on the website when the time is right, and share some of his shenanigans, out there. So anyway, so all right, so what kinds of things do we do? Like, what are we talking about here? Shenanigans, and there's all kinds of things. So there's some that like we do to each other, okay, and we do, to even our teammates, our ones that are in our squad, our platoon, our company and stuff, whether it's we want to pick on them, whether we want to make fun of them or we want them to do something silly, who knows. But I'll tell you this too. So So you've got to be careful too. Like, who is going to get mad, right? Who's the one that's going to get really mad and get upset if you play this trick on them, if you make them look silly? That's me. And if you're listening, you can't see me raise my hand right now, but that's me. Okay. I was always just that guy. I was a little bit uptight. Um, I didn't want anybody doing that to me. And so I typically didn't do it to them because I didn't want them doing it to me either. So, but I definitely was uptight, and I was one that would get mad and really upset when they would do tricks on me. Now, I'll tell you, in '06, they still did tricks on me, and the crew chiefs definitely got my camera a few times and took some not so flattering pictures of things. So, but whatever. I mean, now look, I can laugh at it now, and it's funny, and I should have definitely been, a lot more lighthearted and willing to laugh and joke at myself back then. But it was just not me. It wasn't my personality. And so, but I was that guy. So you've got to, when you do play tricks on people, you've got to think about that, like, well, is this person really going to get upset and like go tell the boss, or, can we do it and it just be okay, and stuff like that. So yeah, you've got to be careful about that. But so one of the things we do is we have some of our crew chief gear. We have harnesses that we wear when we're flying. It holds all of our gear and stuff, and there's a hook on the back. And sometimes they'll hook people up, and then we have a hoist in the hangar that we use to, lift engines or transmissions or blades off the helicopter, for maintenance and stuff. And they'll, put this gear on them. And sometimes, if they're like really giving a fight or whatever, they may tape them up a little bit and then hang them on the hoist, raise them up a few feet or whatever, and then walk away and leave. And then especially like at lunchtime, and there's like nobody left in the hangar, and it's like, hey guys, don't forget about me. That's, one of the funny things. I've definitely seen that one. And then, and if there's no hoist, what I've seen people use is, we have a mobile crane. We call it a scamp, but it's a mobile crane. It's got a boom and it'll lift people up. But anyway, that's definitely one of the, crazy things we've seen. And, people will do that. So another one that we definitely did, mostly to people in other companies. We didn't do it to ourselves too much unless it was like a new person, maybe messing with them, or maybe even their birthday, and we just, feel like messing with them. But so we would tape them up in a chair. So what we would do, somehow get another crew chief and sometimes a pilot, if we thought they would be okay with it, because sometimes the pilots can be a little bit uptight too, and they're too good to have those tricks played on them. So we would somehow lure them into our office, and people would be ready, but they would be like kind of milling around, like not really gonna do something. They're just acting like they're busy or whatever. And then they would get in there, and then somebody slide the chair underneath them, boom, push them down, and like two people are running tape, around them. And of course, I mean, they're screaming and fighting by this time. But at that point, if you're by yourself in another flight company's office, that's it. You're done. You're not getting out of it, because there's probably 4 or 5 of them. And, you're getting taped up. Now, sometimes they'll leave you in there and almost take you hostage, and they may leave, or they will roll you out and then roll you out on the hangar floor and just let you, roll out and see until somebody from your own, company comes and saves you. So, but when that stuff happens, so now the retaliation is going to come, right? Oh, you did it to me and us, and so now we're going to do it to you. So now people are on edge, in a good way. Like, no, man, I'm not going to Charlie Company's office. Like, no, man, you've got to go get the logbook. We need to go fly that aircraft. No, man, I'm not going over there, like, by myself. Like, we need to go like 3 of us. Well, we don't have 3 of us, stuff like that. So you've got to pay attention and be careful of where you go, because you have no idea, if they're going to get you again, or, going to retaliate on you, or whatever the case is. So it kind of starts some wars sometimes. Now, also what happens is those wars will get started and sometimes escalate a little too high, and then higher people will get involved and be like, okay, enough's enough, and then we all kind of go to our corners. And there's a friendly rivalry between the flight companies, for sure. So in every like flight battalion, there's 3 different companies, but we're all the same as all the same personnel, same aircraft, whatever. So, but there's always just that rivalry between each other, and so we ended up doing a lot of that stuff to the other companies, not so much ourselves. But sometimes, we'll take on ourselves and do some funny things like that. So another thing that we do, and this happened at Fort Hood, and it was snowed, iced out, probably ice, more ice in Texas than snow. So we were off that day, and it was during the week. Well, we have most of the time we have some kind of ATV, whether it be a Gator, a Polaris, something with a bed in it, where we take our gear out to the aircraft, because there's a lot of stuff to carry out there in our toolboxes and everything. And so we have those, or like for some reason somebody had a golf cart, and when I was at Fort Hood in the early days, and they were driving around and take stuff. So they got the golf cart and they were out on the flight line doing donuts and going around the aircraft. And for whatever reason, this is a long time, so I may be combining 2 stories, but I'm pretty sure somebody, again, for whatever reason, opened up a door to the aircraft, and they were coming by and they hit the door with the golf cart and broke it. And of course, so that's what brought attention to them of riding the golf cart out there and doing donuts on the flight line, which in and itself probably wouldn't hurt anybody or anything, but then they damaged an aircraft, and it cost money and time, and now we got to get the parts and stuff. And so of course we get lectured too, and then whoever owned the golf cart was like, oh, the Army will overreact big time, be like, was it secured? Who secures it? You better have a key. Whoever drives it now has to have a PT belt and their helmet and glasses, and yeah, see, PT belt, right? We have to have PT belt on for everything. That solves all problems, right? All safety problems. So all that came out, and it's just like, oh my God. But yeah, that's some of the things we do. And then also with the vehicles, the ATVs and our tugs and stuff. I mean, guys will go out there and for whatever reason decide, I can go faster than you in this tug, or I can go faster than you in this ATV, and they're racing down the flight line, and then like hitting each other and doing all kinds of stuff. And like in the middle of the day, and people are watching this, and of course, somebody's, hey, stop, what are you doing? Somebody's going to get hurt, right? and it's like, why did y'all do that? And they're like, well, why not? Why haven't you done that? Is their answer. Like, I don't know. It was fun. And, so we definitely do things like that all the time. Just, sometimes spur of the moment. So, another time we were out in the field, and we had this was actually in 2002, before we invaded Iraq in 2003. So we had taken almost all of our vehicles out there, and we had just been issued new bigger trucks. We call them LMTVs, but they're just big troop carrier type trucks. So when we were out there, it was raining and nasty, and so we had already been out there for a couple days, and they decided to drive it and go on a convoy mission or something, and they found a mud hole. They had no idea how deep the mud hole was, but they decided that they wanted to test the new truck, and let's see how it does in this mud hole. Well, the mud hole was a little too deep. It was a little bit deeper than what they thought, and it covered the wheels when they went in it. So they dove in it. So long story short, they had to call somebody back at our little tactical assembly area and get them to get the wrecker to come and pull them out, because it got stuck. So of course people got mad. You got the truck stuck. You were horsing around. You were doing this, and of course, the NCO was like, "No, I was just trying to test out its abilities. I want to see how it could do in that mud. Before we take it, down range and stuff." Which, hey, that's pretty good reason. So, sometimes we do that, and it's not the smartest thing in the world to do. But so another thing, and these are some of the things that we really do. We pick on ourselves, and we ask people to go do things, or go get stuff that it's really not a real thing. So for example, and you may have heard the term box of grid squares. So we'll ask somebody, hey, go to supply or go over here and go get a box of grid squares. And they're like, what are grid squares? Like, grid squares from the map. You got to get a box of them. So we'll, help you look at the map or whatever the case is. Well, if you think about a map, whether it's on the wall or on the ground, whatever. I mean, we have it's divided up into squares, right? All over the map. And so there's letters and numbers and, so that we can determine like where something is, how far it is, or whatever, the case is. But you can't put all those grid squares, like you can't take them off, obviously, and put them in a box. I guess you could fold the map up and put it in a box. So we were out at NTC in 2002, and we were in the morning, we were doing our, what we called stand 2 duties. So we prepared for an attack, because most attacks come, early in the morning at dawn or in the evening at dusk. So we would always go out early in the morning and, wait for the enemy. So anyway, we're just kind of bored, and we're talking, and this one guy says to this young soldier, actually the soldier wasn't too young. They were studying for the promotion board, so they really should have been a little bit more aware than they weren't. But he says, hey, go, call the CP, because we were out at the crew served weapon area, is a 50 cal pit where we were. And he says, call the CP, the command post, and ask for a box of grid squares. No, what is that? And so kept on and on and on, convinced that soldier to call up there. And then the soldier, whoever answered, was like, if you want a box of grid squares, you're going to have to come up here and get them. So that soldier's like, fine. So goes up there, and we're laughing and giggling like, oh my God, they're actually going up there. So anyway, they go up there. We have no idea what's going on. They come back, and the soldier is mad. I mean, is so mad. I think threw sand at us, cursed at us pretty good. And we're like, what happened? What happened? And then called us all kinds of names. And anyway, they went up there, and there's a map on the wall. And the commander that was in there says, well, if you can put all those squares, all those grid squares on that wall into a box, you can have a box of grid squares. Other than that, I suggest you head right back out to your post and do your job or whatever. So this soldier was so mad and embarrassed, obviously. And so that took a while to get over that one. But that's, one of the other things we do, to kind of pick on each other. So another one is an exhaust sample. So, in aviation, we take oil samples and, to test make sure our transmissions and our gearboxes are good to go and there's no metallic pieces in them. So you should think an exhaust sample, that doesn't even sound like something that's normal. But if you're brand new, like maybe, you just don't know, right? Especially if you're a brand new private and these senior crew chiefs or mechanics are around and they're like, yeah, man, we need to do this. Like, quit messing around, So I've seen it 2 different ways. They'll, try to get you to do it from the aircraft, like, especially like if the auxiliary power unit, the APU is on, with a trash bag out there trying to catch it like this, or in the motor pool, with the exhaust from the truck, they're like trying to bag it up, and then like it'll fill up and they'll like close it, and like, well, is this good? Is this enough? Like, no, it's got to be really full. They got to get like all the air and exhaust in there, so we keep trying. And then we'll have them, like, especially in the motor pool in the trucks, we'll have them taken into to the mechanics, the actual ground mechanics, and into their office and stuff. And then it usually goes okay, like they don't care. And then, but sometimes you'll get like somebody senior in there will be like mad, like, because we're wasting their time. Quit wasting my time with these people coming in here with these bags, and come out. And that happened a couple of times. They start yelling at us, and we're just like giggling, like, okay, whatever, sorry, my bad. And then, the soldier will get over it, laugh at themselves like, ha ha. But yeah, so get that exhaust sample, get that tied up in a bag and get submitted for analysis. Another one is flight line. So we need to, like, if we need to fix the flight line, which we don't do, okay? We don't, if it's like the concrete out there or anything like that, like that's somebody else. But we're like, hey, go to Tech Supplies where we have all of our like aviation parts and go order some flight line and, get some from them and, bring it out here or whatever. And that's one of the silly ones. Usually they don't fall for that one, but sometimes they do. So another one is chem light batteries. So the chem lights, you just break them a little bit. The little plastic tubes. You just snap them, and then it releases the chemicals in there, and then it shines whatever color it is. And so we can sometimes convince them that there's actually batteries in there. And so we'll take one that's like done. We're like, hey, we need some more chem light batteries. So go to regular supply and get some chem light batteries, and so we can get these chem lights, going again or whatever, and we'll send them on the wild goose chase. And then sometimes supply will be in on it, and they'll be like, "Oh no, you got to go over to this other place to get them," and then they'll send them somewhere else, and then like 3 hours later they show up, there's no one has any chem light batteries, and then we're like, it's okay, come on over here. And then we may let them in on it then or not or later. But that's, pretty funny when we get them going around and looking for that kind of stuff. And another one, like, so with aviation specifically, on the Blackhawks, we have another aircraft have it too, but we call them slime lights. So they're on the back stabilator and then, on top of the aircraft. And really, you can see them at night under goggles, like under the night vision goggles. And there is no, like, we call it slime light juice. So, hey, we need some more slime light juice. Like, this one isn't working anymore. And we'll send some guys on a wild goose chase for that kind of stuff. But, it's things like that that we do to each other and pick on each other. But heaven forbid somebody from outside of our company or our platoon, pick on us, so we can pick on each other. It's almost like a family, right? Like brothers and sisters can just go at it all the time. But if somebody from outside that family comes in, they team up like, no, you ain't messing with us, right? So that's kind of how it is too. Like, no, you ain't coming in here and messing with us. Coming into our family. So, but some of that stuff's internal, and then some of it's external where we do mess around with other people, but you got to be leery because you mess external and then now you're going to be bringing their family members into it and stuff like that. So yeah, those are just some of the silly things we do. Another shenanigan, funny story that I personally was involved in was in Iraq in 2003, and I was a smoker back then. And so, when you think of, this airfield that we took over was abandoned and it's old and you're out in the middle of the desert essentially. But we had, airstrip and some hangars and stuff like that, but we lived in tents, the GP mediums. And I'm going to do an episode soon on showing you the living areas that we lived in. And, so we lived in the tent and slept on cots for a year. And I say all that because it's not like, we had great living areas or, indoors or anything like that. So there was, at first you just kind of smoked anywhere, everywhere. And then once we kind of got settled into our routines, then we always talk about the Army, the good idea fairy starts coming out and starts trying to figure out, like, how we felt as junior soldiers was that people are just out to make our life hell. Like, how can we just make them miserable, more miserable than they already are? Like, again, we were working 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. Yes, we did have 1 day a week off once they got that established. But, pretty stressful, heading out on missions to recover downed aircraft and various missions like that. So, pretty stressful being away from home. Communication was tough, so a lot of shitty conditions, and we just felt like, sometimes they still come up with dumb things to do. So, and one of them was like, okay, you can only smoke, like basically creating designated smoking areas. And again, I mean, this was 2003, not that smoking, not that everybody had already had like the, you can't smoke indoors and stuff. It started to kind of become a thing, but it wasn't too much of a big deal. Like on federal property, it still was, you got to be 50 feet away from a building, and you can't do it inside. But we were living in tents. So outside of our tent area, like we had some camo netting for shade, and we, had chairs and whatever, right? Like a little, but we weren't that far outside the tent. Anyway, they like, you can't smoke there. Like, man, this is our like place to hang out. Like when we're, not sleeping, like, so you can't smoke there. You have to go over here. And if you went over to this certain area, you had to wear like all your gear. Like that was the other thing. So you're telling me I have to put on my Kevlar, grab my weapon, put all my stuff, like to go over there and smoke. Like, come on, man. Like, no. And, part of definitely the smoking thing was socializing, with your teammates and your friends, relaxing. And so that kind of made it not relaxing, So anyway, we were over working at the hangar next door, and a couple of us were just bitching, about it. Like, man, it's so stupid. Like, we have to go over here and, to smoke over there. And they're always like just making it a pain in our ass. And so I said, what if we made a sign, like a portable smoking sign, and we just took it with us wherever we wanted to? And there, a couple people chuckled and laughed and like, man, that'll never work. Like, that's, just whatever, So me and this one guy, we found a piece of cardboard and a marker and put designated smoking area, and we took some safety wire, because we all aviation, we have safety wire we use on the aircraft all the time. Poked a couple holes and found a stick and made it, put the sign on there, and we walked down the flight line into a spot where we definitely knew that we weren't supposed to be smoking, right? Put the sign in the ground and lit up, and was sitting there smoking, and sure enough, here comes, I don't even know, somebody walking like, hey, you can't smoke there. And we like pointed at the sign and it said, designated smoking area. No, you made that up or whatever, that's BS and all this kind of stuff. And so anyway, we finished our cigarettes, and then before we even got back to the company area, somebody came and got us like, hey, First Sergeant wants to see y'all. We're like, damn, man, already? Like, man, word travels fast. So here we are in the red carpet. Was no red carpet at that time, but First Sergeant's like, Miller, Yancey, like, why are y'all always like bucking the system and trying to get back in the man? And we're like, First Sergeant, come on, man. Like, they're being an asshole and jerks about like where we can smoke and being a pain in our ass. Like, when we smoke, we just want to be able to have a cigarette, And so anyway, he empathized with us and agreed with us, but was like, please stop doing that stuff that brings negative attention to us and you, And so we're like, Roger, First Sergeant, okay, First Sergeant, we won't do it again, we didn't get in real trouble. We're just like, come on, please don't do this. Like, we've got bigger problems to deal with. And so after that, though, I might have been a day or two later, we got a little bit more freedom on where we could smoke. So, hey, shenanigans happen, and we got a little bit more freedom on where we could smoke. So it made us happy, So not a bad thing. But yeah, so those are just kind of an introduction to some of the shenanigans that we do. And, this is really, I'm going to say this is part 1 of Shenanigans, and I'll bring this out again, in future episodes, and we'll do part 2, 3, or however many, because trust me, there's many more shenanigans to come. And especially if we can bring Seth Brown on, and he can share some of them, definitely from 03, and he was with me in 03, he deployed with me, and he deployed with me in 06 as a crew chief. We were in the same company both times, and had a great time, and he did some pretty silly things. At one point, I have a picture of him sitting on a donkey in Iraq with another one of our crew chiefs, like at the front of the donkey, like, what is going on here? Like, yeah. So anyway, things like that. So maybe we can get him on here and he can share some of his stories and shenanigans. But anyway, hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me today, and episode 18, Shenanigans. Look forward to another episode with Grant Belvin, the former Marine, coming up this week. We'll bring him back on, and then we'll continue kind of, some of my stories in through 2003 Iraq, and then how it kind of move on forward from there. So we're going to talk about some leadership challenges in the future, and also we might bring up the housing crisis again. There's some issues going on with that out there, but I know some of y'all had asked about healthcare. How does that work in the Army? And I'll do a show on that soon, and some of the pay and compensation, some of the benefits, and plus some of the pros and cons of being in the Army. So hey, there are definitely some pros and there are definitely some cons, and I'm not a recruiter, and I'll be here to tell you just the honest truth and what I've experienced. So anyway, hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And if you need to check out anything related to the show, you can check out millersmilitarymoments.com, and it's got all the links to the YouTube channel. It's got the links to Twitter, which is pretty active, so you can follow me on there, and a lot of interaction going on there with some other fantastic podcasters and stuff too. So but yeah, so check that out, and then there's links to everything in there. And until next time, see ya.